So today we're going to be talking about importing and exporting contacts, how to utilize and troubleshoot CSV file imports. I'm your host. My name is Jeremy. I am the training and knowledge coordinator here with HighLevel. And we have Jarvin, the support product manager for basically all things CRM, contacts, conversations, CRM integrations, which like spans everything from API to like Facebook integrations and so much more. But really quickly today, we're going to talk about the requirements for importing and bringing your leads over from another platform to HighLevel. As you onboard new clients to your agency and they want to retain those contacts that they've already established or maybe even prospective leads, we're going to talk about the requirements for the import process. So we'll talk about everything from column value formats to the actual formats of the file types that are required. We'll do a deep dive into the three steps that are required to actually import, how to troubleshoot errors that occur when you're importing your leads. And then we'll do a live demonstration before heading into our Q&A session and providing you the slide deck. So Jarvin, whenever you are ready, feel free to start.
All right.
Let people in as they come in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you again, Jeremy, for the wonderful introduction. So again, I'm Jarvin. I'm the support product manager for CRM, and I mainly want to discuss the import process right now. I wanted to focus on this feature because we do get a lot of contacts about this when it comes to like the CRM side of things. So I want to provide more clarity and information to our clients so that you would understand the process in general and how to go about troubleshooting any errors that might come from any imports that you do in the system. So I'll be starting to share my screen. Okay, so Jeremy discussed the first two slides already. I'll be going off from the third slide. So these next few slides, I won't be going too much into detail for now because I'm actually doing a live presentation of me importing some sample leads into my agency account. So I'll briefly go over this and discuss them once more when I'm actually doing the import in my account. So I'm just going to start this slideshow. Okay. So what is, okay, that didn't start. Okay, yeah. So what is actually needed in order for you, for an agency owner or for an admin to import leads into the system? So first off, a CSV file is needed. CSV is basically a comma delimited file or a CSV file. You would see that CSV in the file. That's how you ensure that the file that you have is a CSV file or a comma delimited file. It's a way for our system to look into the information that you have in order for it to properly be processed when actually going into your different locations. So we have a few requirements here. It needs to be smaller than 50 megabytes. You would need to have only one sheet. So if you have a CSV file at the bottom, you have multiple sheets in the CSV file, that wouldn't work. It would need to have only one sheet. So 50 MB is our typical CSV file when you're importing. So the file size for this is usually 4 columns with 10,000 records. So if you have any data that's larger than this file, you may want to break it down to multiple imports or multiple CSV files so that it doesn't break anything in the system. So one thing to note initially is your CSV file would need to have a header row in at least one column. So that's usually at the very top of your CSV file. Don't worry about it if you are not visually imagining it right now, as I'll be going through the import process and I'll be showing an actual import, an actual CSV file that we can try importing into one of my agency locations. Okay, so heading to the next slide. It's not letting me. Okay. So again, I'll just be briefly discussing these fields with you, and I'll be discussing them once more when I'm actually importing this my CSV file into the location. So if you have a date field available in your CSV file, the typical format that you would want to see from there is month, day, and then the year. This format is also allowed in the system, but I would generally advise just using one format. I would typically just use this format so that there's no confusion in what format that you're using when you're importing fields that have dates in them. You can also replace the slash with these values instead, and it will still recognize the import in the system. So another field that you can import properly in the system is multiple options, checkbox, text box list, and these are the acceptable formats when it comes to importing those information or values over to your locations. So you have a value here that's separated by a comma. For example, you have blue, then a comma, then yellow, and the rest of the information that you have here. As for radio, single option acceptable formats is only one value because you can only select one value if you have a radio or single option custom field in the location. So if you have a user custom field or a user column in your CSV file, the contact owner acceptable format is first name and then last name. This is an example of it. And then the other one is last name and then first name. So if you have a user in your system, these are the formats that you would want to add in your files. As for tags, we do have options to add tags directly from the CSV import. This is the format that you would want to use when you're adding tags based on your CSV import. You have your value for your first tag separated by commas as well. So for example, again, you have the blue tag, comma, and then the yellow, comma, and then the rest of your tags if you have any. Again, you can also replace those the comma by these values, and it will still recognize the imports for the system. So currently, file upload and signature is not supported when it comes to imports. It's a limitation of the CSV file as we're not able to import using using these fields, as these are not formats that are currently supported in the system. So for phone numbers, if you do, or if you're importing phone numbers in the system, if this is one of the fields that you're using, you would want to have these kinds of formats when you're importing. So you can use dashes, you can also use parentheses, or you can also use the raw format of the phone number. So again, for the vast majority of the cases, as long as the format of the phone number is valid, our system will recognize it. And when it comes to importing those into our system, the main thing that you want to take note of here is that you would need to add the area code of the country at the start, if that's not your default country for the location. But don't worry, I'll also go over that once more when I'm actually doing the import in the system. So you can actually look for country codes just by searching in Google. So if you're aware that you're importing phone numbers for different countries, for example, if you set your default locations country to the US and you want to import different phone numbers from other countries, you can actually just go to Google and search for area codes for other countries, and then you can search, or you can see them from here. For example, if you have numbers that are coming from Iceland, you will need to add a plus 354 at the start so that it can get recognized in the system. Okay, so let's head on over back to the slide. Okay, so these are other fields that are accepted in our system. So numerical acceptable formats is 1234, 1.23.4 or .123. Monetary acceptable formats is again numerical values. These will be accepted in the system. For DND, it would either be true or false or yes or no, if you have that mapped out for your CSV file. Okay, so first step is the actual upload of the CSV. So in this case, I will be going to my HighLevel account. So I have actually two CSV files here that I prepared beforehand. So one is just the very basic information that you want to have in your CSV file. So if you're a new agency and you want to start importing your leads into your locations, this is typically what you want to see in your CSV files. So it's very basic. There's nothing not much information that are added in here, but this is typically what you want to see when you're importing this information into your system. So we have here your first name, last name, phone number, and email. Phone number and email here is actually very important because these are unique identifiers in the system. These are the information that our system will look into when it comes to either creating new contacts or updating contacts in your location. So we can also, again, go over that in detail when I'm actually doing the import for my agency location. So the other CSV file that I have here is there's more information here that we can diagnose later when it comes to troubleshooting. So I have here the first name, last name, phone number, email. I have the birthday field, country, time zone, contact type, tags. As I mentioned earlier, you can also add tags when you're doing your import so that these do come added to the leads based on your CSV import. I also have a few custom fields here where I want to further discuss later on to ensure that these do get mapped out properly when you're doing your imports. So let me go to my agency account. So this is an agency account that I newly created for testing purposes. So there's no contacts here at all. In the settings, I've set this location to the US. So I mentioned earlier that it's important to take note of what country you set your current location to, because the phone numbers that you're importing will largely depend on what you have selected here. If you have US selected as your country, you don't need to add a +1 as the area code for your phone number. But if you're importing other phone numbers, if you're importing phone numbers from other countries, you would then need to use the country codes at the start of the numbers. Like, for example, again, this, if you have, for example, Italy, we need to have a +39 at the beginning of your phone number in your list. So let's go back to the contacts. So what does a user actually need in order to import a CSV file? A user would need to have at least an admin permission in order for them to be able to import a file in a location. If the user is just has a user role, they won't have some features here available from their contacts. They won't be able to delete, import, or export contacts. So import contacts, this is the button that you need to select when you're importing contacts. So again, here you would need to have a CSV file and up to 50 MB in size are supported when you're importing. So you can go ahead and upload a file by clicking here, or you can also drag the file along here as well. So I'm just going to hit next here. So as you can see, when I did the import or I selected the CSV file for the import, some of the fields automatically got mapped out here. So that happens because we do have standard fields in the system. First name, last name, phone number, and email are all standard fields in the system based on the CSV file that I have here. Again, this is very important as this is the information that will get mapped out when it comes to importing your CSV file. Again, avoid having a space here at the very top that would cause issues with your import. So just make sure that it looks like this with the column headers at the very top here. So since we have these column headers here, what happened is that when I selected that file, these did get this information, these fields for the standard fields did get automatically get created or got mapped out properly and automatically here. So we do have options to select other fields here. As for example, if you have another email that you want to use, if you have a custom field for a different email, you can select that from here. So you do have options to map out these using a different information. So since this information looks good, the first name got mapped to first name, last name got mapped to last name, phone number did get mapped to phone number, email for email, I'm just going to hit next. So there's a few things to take note of here. So import name is the name of the import that will show in the bulk actions after you're done with the import process. So this will default to the current date and time that you're actually doing your import. Create a list of contacts from the import actually just means that it will create a smart list based on the import that you're doing. One thing to take note of here is that it's important to know and understand that if you select this option, this will only create a list for contacts that are not already in the system. So this means that newly created contacts are what will show from this smart list. And if you have any contacts that are already in the system and you're just updating them, they won't show from the smart list. You would always want to hit the advanced feature here because this is primarily what the import is going to be based on. Like that, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to take note of the unique identifiers in your CSV file, as our system mainly recognizes existing contacts based on unique identifiers such as phone number and email. Because a person can have, like, there's a person that can have different name, or sorry, the same name to them, but they would have a different phone number or email. So that's the way our system would recognize people that are already in the system if we want to update them or not. So here, email is selected as the default option. I always recommend adding a second preference regardless of what you have in your CSV file. I always use both email and phone number when I'm doing the import. This means that this system would look into your CSV import for both phone number and email. So for example, if you have a lead here that's missing one of the other, so if you only selected email from your import, like for example, if we remove the second preference, if we're just going to only be basing the import on email, then if you import the CSV file using this list, this number 2 contact will show an error from the import because it's missing an email. Alternatively, if you only use phone number for the main primary source of the import, then this test number 4 will fail because it's currently missing a phone number in your CSV file. I'm just going to revert that and go back here. So there are a few options available for you here to choose from. I would, again, always suggest using add new and update existing contact records, but depending on your use case, you may want to use these other two options here for you. So add new and update existing contacts would basically just mean that you're based on your CSV file, if you have information there, for example, if you have a phone number and email that is not already in the system, it will create a brand new contact for those leads. Alternatively, if you have these two options that you're looking into from your CSV file, if you have both email and phone number here, and you do have leads in your system that already has, or there is an existing email and phone number in the system, it will update those instead. So adding new contact records would basically just mean that you're creating new contacts based on your CSV import. This means that if you have an existing contact in the system, using this option won't update those contacts. Lastly, if you use update existing contact records, then that means that the system won't create new contacts based on your import. It will only update those leads that you already have in the system. So here we do have, again, email and phone number to base the import from, but you also have the option to select none here. So if you were to see add new and update existing contact records and update existing contact records has been grayed out. That basically means that the system is in pivoting of any current information that you have in your CSV import and comparing it to what it's already in the system. So you only have the option to add new contact records because basically the system isn't looking for any existing information that you already have in your system, and it will always import everything that you have in your CSV file. So again, it depends mostly on your use case, but you can select none, you can select email, and you can select phone number. But again, as general way of importing, I always just use a second preference here when I'm basing the import using both email and phone number. So let's just select this one here. So we do have the option here. Let's toggle for don't update empty values for existing records. So what this basically just saying is that if you have empty values in your CSV file, for example, if I were to just delete this information from here, and I do have, for example, if I do have these 3 contacts already in the system using this email, and I already have these, for example, if I have all the information for these 3 contacts in the system, where they have their first name, last name, phone number, and email, and if I were to re-import the same file with these information is import that file and I don't select this one, it will remove those values for those contacts, because then the system would look into these empty values as one or as information that you want to update for your contacts as well. So again, this is a setting that I always recommend using. You don't want to update those contacts with the empty values that you have in your CSV import, because you don't want those information to get lost for your existing contacts. So we do have the option to add tags based on the CSV import here. This will, if you add any tag here, tag, for example, tag 1, then we do have tag 2 here. So if you were to add these tags to your import, these will get added to all the contacts that you're importing from your CSV file. So these tags will need to be created in the system first. So I have these 2 tags here added. So I'm just going to back out for this quickly, just to show you where you can add the tags. So go to settings, add tags. So again, I have these 2 tags already added. If you want to add more tags, you can simply click on this button and then add the tag that you want. Let's just name this tag 3 for now. And that should update. Let me just refresh. Okay, yeah, sorry, that took a bit of time, but yeah. So tag 3 is now added, and then you can add that back to your contacts. Again, let's go back to contacts and then select import. Again, I'm just going to select the basic spreadsheet for now. I'll be using the other spreadsheet in the next import. So let's select this create list of contacts from the import. So yeah, that's how you can add tags to all the leads that you have in your CSV file. So let's go here where you can actually add the people that you're importing from your CSV file to a workflow or campaign. So I don't have any workflows or campaigns in this location yet because I'm just using this as a test location for the webinar, but this is where you go and select your workflows or campaigns if you want those leads that are coming in to automatically get added to those workflows or campaigns. So I'm not going to select any for now, and I'm not going to add tags to these contacts for now. So again, let's add a second preference for the import that we're doing. And let's hit submit. So this button or this pop-up usually don't go away if you're doing the import. So I would just always recommend to just X out of it. You can always, so these sample contacts did get import properly in the system. So you can always check the status of your block actions here. I was doing tests earlier for this location. So there are a few data that we can see from the bulk actions, but this is the one that we want to see, which is the latest one. So you have a few things that you can look into here. There's the name of the import that we did, what type of bulk action was done for this location. So it's a bulk import, status is completed. We go to view details. It's just the name of the bulk import and the type of import is created. The important thing here is actually the stats and the actions that you can do for the import. So as you can see, 5 total got imported, 5 got created, 0 got updated, and 0 errors from the import. So again, it's a very basic import where we have just the first name, last name, phone number, and email to go off by. So in the actions, we have a few things that we can look into. First is revert, another is show error log, which is not relevant for this one because there are no errors from the import that we just did, and show imported. So show imported, if you were to click on it, it will show you the list of people that got imported based on the CSV file that you did. So again, what you can take note from here is that it will only show people that got created in the system. This won't show people that got updated based on your CSV import, and it will always be using the import batch ID when pulling up this information. that's also relevant to the smart list that got created since we did select the create smart list feature when we're importing. So it's in here. And when we check the filters, again, it will be based on the import batch ID. So it's important to take note that, again, only newly created contacts will show from here. But what I recommend is if you were to, if you want to use the information from here, you can always just select these contacts and add a tag to them. And when you're filtering using smart lists, you can then quick search using the tag instead for those contacts. Because if we were to just base off the information from here, we can basically add more people here or remove people, because again, it's being based on the import batch ID for the filter. So let's go back again to the bulk actions. So reverting here will also only include contacts that were created in the system. It won't revert data if you have contacts that got or were updated in the system. So that's also important to take note of as you want to ensure that the information that you're pulling into the system from your CSV file is correct, and the information that you want to come over to these leads that you have that are already in the system, as reverting only removes the contacts that were created, but it doesn't actually remove the data if the contact was updated based on the CSV import. Okay, so now that's done, I'm just going to basically delete these contacts, and I will be importing the file where we have a few more fields that we can go over and troubleshoot any errors that could come from this import. So that now that's done. Again, I'm just going to import the file. I'm going to select the worksheet with the ones with the information that we need. So hit next here. So again, you can map out fields here. As you can see, some fields did not get automatically mapped in this portion, such as time zone and contact type. Test field 2, that's not really too important. I just wanted to show that because we do have the option where you can select this feature where you don't import data in unmatched columns. So if you don't want to map any fields here, that's perfectly fine as well. So since we do want to map time zone, we're just going to select time zone from here. And contact type is actually just type here. Okay, so I do have a custom field that I added in this location, which is again test field and test field 2. So we do have yes or no from the test field, which I'll be explaining later on why this is important. So once everything is mapped out, we select this feature where we don't want to map this test field out. We hit next. We create a list of contacts based on the import. We add a second preference here. And we're just going to basically choose email and phone number. So I'm just going to go over the information that we already have in our CSV import. So again, we do have the first name, last name, phone number, and email. We also have birthday here, country, time zone, contact type, tag, and these two are custom fields that I added in the system. So what's important to note here is for the birthday, for example, again, earlier in the slides, I mentioned that it's important to use the proper date formats when it comes to information such as birthdays. So we have a few formats here available. I did month, day, and then year for this one. I did January, I spelled out January here, and then the day, and then the year. And lastly, we do have day, and then month and the year here. Country, I opted to select the name of the whole country here. And there's also option for us to add country based on these options. Time zone, these are America, Denver. I'll explain that later on. And I do have contact type, as we do receive reports of contact type not being updated properly based on the import. And again, you do have the option to add tags to your leads. You can separate them by just using a comma here. So I have tag 1 here, I have tag 1, and then tag 2 here. Okay, so again, it's always recommended to just use both email and phone number as reference when importing. So that's just going to hit submit here. And we can X out of this one. So I created another smart list using that filter. Okay. So in the bulk actions, we do actually see that the import is still being processed here. Says 30%. We go to show stats. Says 10 total. We got errors here. And we can't actually see anything yet because the status of the import is still not complete. So let me just try refreshing the page to see if it will push through this time. Okay, so now that it's complete, we do want to see the stats of our import. So it says here there's 10 total people in the import, which is correct because we do have 10 leads here. Next is 7 got created. There's 3 errors showing from the import. So we can go ahead and go to the error log to basically diagnose what those errors are and how we can resolve those errors on our CSV file. So here we have line 2 with the code, with the message of the error, and a brief explanation on how to resolve the issue from the import. So line 2 here is actually the number 3 row from your CSV file. It's a bit confusing, but basically our system is not recognizing the very first row here for our column headers. So the very first one is actually this lead from the second row moving onwards. So if it's saying in your CSV import error here, line 2, it's actually basing off the third line here. So let's see what we can look into. So the error here is invalid enumeration option. Identify the incorrect value. We're comparing your import file against the property in the system. You can choose to update the value import file to match the existing option or add the value as a custom option for your property. So let's just look into that. Let's see. Tag 2. Test 2. Let's see the number of people that actually got created in our smart list here. Let's compare that to what we already have in our CSV file. So we have test 1, 2. So test 3 is missing. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So test 3 So we don't have a test tree here. So this is what we want to look into. Test 9 is also missing, and test 10. Okay. So that looks good. Okay, so again, let's go over our bulk actions and show the error log. Okay, so for line 2, the main problem here is that if you were to go look into the CSV file, in the custom field, we do have 2 options available here. So I did one with the yes. The first letter is in uppercase, the rest are in lowercase, and I do have one yes here, all in uppercase. So the error is showing from there. It's because when I actually go to my settings for the custom fields, this is where you can create custom fields for your location. If we were to edit the custom field that I did, the possible values here are only yes or no. Please remember that these are case sensitive, so you can experience issues in importing the proper data into your system if you don't use exactly the information that you have here in your custom fields. So again, there's an error there because I used yes all in capitals here, where the correct format would need to be yes, similar to what you have in your CSV or in your custom fields. Another thing to note here is that I've seen issues where field data isn't getting imported properly because there will be a space here at the end of your custom field. So since the system is looking for the exact value in your custom fields, when you have an option, for example, here, where you do have no in the proper format, this won't get imported properly because there's a space in your custom field. So I would always just double check this if you're experiencing issues when importing custom field values in your system. So just remove that space and that should be good to go. So let's go back to the bulk actions and the error logs. So don't worry about the error logs, as these will be also added in our support articles. And we do have the error logs here as well, listed in the slide. So let's go back to my account. So another thing to note is that here it's saying for line 3, could not parse phone number, and it's also saying it's invalid enumeration option and invalid required property. So let's see what line 3 is from our spreadsheet. So here we can see that this is the number that the system is looking into. So it's 916-831-8772. So as I mentioned earlier, it's important for the system, or wait, let me see this one. Let me just double check. Line 3. Oh, it's this one, sorry. Line 3 is the 4th line in your CSV file. Okay, so we have here 639-983-561-152. So again, it's important to take note of the country that's selected for your country in your sub-account, because this is a number for a different country. 63 is actually the area code for the Philippines. That's why if you just format it this way, sometimes it gets formatted this way, where the area code is not added. So it would cause issues because 998 is primarily a number that's used in the Philippines. So what you would need to do here is add the area code for the country that you want, add the plus sign here, So if we were to simply do that, let's see. As you can see, the plus sign gets removed at the start. So a simple way to fix that is just to add an apostrophe here and then add a +9 so that the Excel spreadsheet doesn't automatically get updated or formatted without the plus sign here. So if you can see here, the plus sign was added properly with the correct area code for the country of the Philippines, which is 63. So that's how you fix that particular error in your CSV file. So line 4, it's saying invalid enumeration option. Again, line 4 is this one. So again, it's all in uppercase. The system isn't recognizing that proper format in your custom field. That's why it's not taking into the system properly. So let's see, line 5 here is could not parse phone number, and invalid enumeration option is also present. So I've seen people do import phone numbers that they just randomly listed in their CSV file. So as you can see here, I just listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's not recognized in the system. That's why it would show an error in your import error logs here. So let's see, number 6 here is again invalid enumeration option. Let's see. Okay. So here, I believe the error is with the, I believe it's the birthday. Let's see. Let's double check like the information that we have in our import. So let's just move down here. Let's just duplicate that for a bit. So let's see the actual information that got imported. So birthday, country, time zone, contact type. So if we were to double check here, the 6. So even if we did have a birthday added here in this field, as you can see, we selected January 2nd, 1853, but in the actual import, sorry about that. And the actual import is showing as Feb 18th, 2053. That's why it's important to take note of how you're formatting your birthdays or your dates in the date fields, because the system is not recognizing those as proper values, or it's not taking in the correct information in our system. So one that we did have proper values is one for the birthday here, which is January 20th, 1990. And in our airport, it's formatted to month, day, and then the year. So this one, let's see the other errors that we have in our system. Could not parse date and invalid enumeration option as well. So could not parse date is line 7 here, which will be this one. So it's not recognizing this format that we have here, where you have your day in front and then followed by your month. So again, the format that I recommend is just using this one instead. So let's see, we do have line 8 here, invalid enumeration option, and then we have failed validation of email, phone number for line 9, and invalid enumeration option, and empty unique property value in the file for line 10. So here, we can see for this test contact, even if it was added as 916 at the start, the rest of the numbers are just random numbers that I added, which the system won't also get recognized if you were to do that. Here, another format that I've seen users do is that the email is not properly formatted. You can see here, it's test.gmail.com, where if I were to change this to just test@gmail.com, this would work properly for the import, at least for the email side of things. And the empty unique property value that the system is referring to will be this lastly that we have. So I've seen this also before where there's no phone number and email that's added in the CSV file. So since we selected email and phone number before from the import settings, because we don't have any values associated with it, the system is basically, or the system doesn't have anything to base the import from. So we do have a few more errors that you can see here, but the most of the time, the errors that I see here is empty unique property value in the file, which basically means that if you're using email as your primary source of import, if you don't have any email there, that would fail. Like that goes along with phone number. If you're using phone number as your main property, as the information that you're importing, if you don't have any leads with a phone number, that will fail as well. Another thing here is that I can see usually is duplicate unique property value in HighLevel. This means basically that you already have a contact in the system, and also if you're basing your import on both phone number and email, I recommend to just clean up your CSV file first, because if you have, for example, this contact already here, if you have thousands of contacts, I'm sure that you won't be able to like look into those right away. So this would fail if I were to import it this way, because I have this unique property here for the email and another one here. So in order for you to check those quickly, I would recommend doing this in your CSV file. Just highlight these two rows for the phone number and email and go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and then select duplicate values here. So you can light these up. So you can see it would highlight all the duplicate information that you have in your CSV file. So you can clean up your CSV file more efficiently. Okay, so there are a lot of other errors here, but I don't really see those too much when as far as people contacting us regarding the import. And let me just double check if I missed anything else. Oh yeah. So when it comes to time zones, as you can see, I selected the name of the time zone here. Usually people would add like a GMT plus for the time zone. But actually what you need to do is you go here in time zone, you actually need to list down the actual name of the time zone. For example, America, Phoenix here, you need to list down the time zone instead of using GMT -7. Again, this will all be available in one of our help articles, so you don't have to worry too much about it. That also goes with the country, Japan. As you can see, I selected Japan here just by using this short code. That would also be, those codes will also be added in one of our support articles, but you can also use the whole name of the country here. As for the contact type, the main issue here is that our system will only recognize the import if all lowercase were added, like lead and customer. So if you were to import the information using an uppercase lead and uppercase C for customer, those won't get imported as well. And I guess those are most of the things that I wanted to highlight when it comes to importing. I do apologize if it took a bit of time for me to go through the whole process. But yeah, I think with all this information, you can start diagnosing of what you need in your CSV file to get started and basically troubleshoot them by looking into the contacts and then bulk actions and from the show error log. And yeah, that will be, I believe, all for me. Thank you again, everyone, and passing it to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jarvin. Before we get into the Q&A portion of the webinar, I did want to share my screen really quick to go into the feedback portion. So if you guys can, please take a minute to scan this QR code and give us some feedback as to the next webinars you'd like to see in the series. We do have 2 webinars scheduled next week that we've curated specifically from feedback that we've gotten from this survey format, which are going to be regarding the Mailgun ISV feature, as well as the social planner and integrations with scheduling out social planners. You will be getting a copy of this recording. It's also going to be uploaded onto our YouTube channel with the training webinars playlist. But if you send me a DM, a private message with your email address, I'll make sure that you get a copy of this, Raquel. You're welcome. There are additional help articles in this link. I'm going to send you guys a slideshow right now, as well as a link to the survey. So if you didn't get a chance to scan the QR code, it's also in the chat as well. But you can see the CSV file prerequisites are in there, the importing of the contact list and how to do that if you wanted a help article that's going to be in there. Importing duplicate contacts is a really big issue that may happen. I know, Jarvin, you have a couple questions already lined up regarding duplicate contacts that we're going to go into in a second. The user permissions that we talked about, allowing duplicate contacts, bulk actions for contacts, and then troubleshooting bulk requests, which is the error logs that we've discussed. All right, will do, David. So now we're going to enter our Q&A portion. I'm going to start with Adam's question. He asked it earlier before he had to jump off, but he wanted to know what's the best practice to sending an email to an import list, because when you search for that batch ID, it doesn't show any existing contacts. So he wants to know what would be the best practice for sending a bulk email to both existing and new contacts.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So again, it's not the best way to go off based on the smart list that will be created on the import. So what I would suggest is adding a tag. If you're sure that you want to like send a message or an email campaign to all the leads that you have from the import that you're doing, I just recommend adding a tag for each and every single one of them, so that you have something to base off on. So when you go search in your contact smart list, basing on the tag that you added to your contacts, then you can do everything that you want, such as sending a bulk email or adding them to a campaign or a workflow or anything that you want. You can simply base it off of that tag, or you can also create a new smart list based on the tag that you did.
Thank you so much, Jarvin. All right. Are there any other questions or any issues that you guys are experiencing regarding importing leads for your clients?
I just have one question, but it's not about importing contacts. It's the opposite. It's about exporting contact list. So when I export a contact list, for some reason the tag field, if the client has the contact has more than one tag, there is no option to get the tag in one column. I mean, in a column, the tag number 1, in the second, and the tag number 2. So the tag is separated by comma. So I don't know if there is a way to export the contact list with the tag separate.
Actually, I think like that's because that's currently how it's set up, because when we do import tags to a contact, that's how we also like add multiple tags to the contact. We separate them using a comma in the CSV file. So I believe that's why it's also doing it the same way when you're actually exporting those information out from your system.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, really quickly, Jarvin, do you want to share with the group how to export additional columns that aren't the standard columns with the leads?
Oh yeah, we can definitely go through that quickly. So let me just share my screen once more. Okay. So we have here, again, these are the contacts that we imported earlier. So if you, wait, am I sharing my screen?
You
Oh
are.
yeah, okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, so if you want to export information from your leads that are already in the system, and you're seeing that not all information you want are being exported, it's because you're not selecting all the fields that you need from the column field here. So if, for example, you want to export other things here, such as the address, a state, the type, so anything, and maybe you have like custom values or custom fields that you want to export as well, like the one that I have is test field. So once you export these contacts when selecting these other fields here, then that's the only time when those information will get exported. The only drawback right now is that we currently can't export websites or countries. It's a limitation that I believe that the team is currently working on. But as a temporary workaround, I do recommend, if you really need to export those informations out from your leads, is to basically just create a custom field, add a custom field here using a text field, basically add the website. You can't use website or basically the same name as the standard field that we already have. So you may want to rename it to website 2. And that goes the same to country as well, country 2. And then once you fill out your leads with these details, and then you can just go back to your contacts, select a contact, export contacts. Oh, sorry. So go to columns, and then you can select country and website. And then from there, you can export those information into a CSV file. All right, yeah, that's it for me, Jeremy. Hope everyone had something to take note of based on the information you provided.
Thank you so much, Gigi, for the survey. If you guys have any questions, we're going to be posting the next webinars in, or if you want to join the next 2 webinars I talked about, the social planner or the one regarding, social planner, and then lead connector, ISV for Mailgun, not for Twilio, for the Mailgun release that's happening on the 20th. So, or happening next Thursday, just feel free to go into the Go High Level events page, and it'll say training webinars, and you can just sign up on the landing pages. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.